Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Tanzu Community Edition weekly community meeting. If you're watching this from home, we encourage you to come join us live. We have two different options for you to choose from. We have this one in which we meet every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and then we have a monthly community meeting in which we meet every second Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. India Standard Time. It's a way for you to come and meet the rest of the community, meet the maintainers, bring up any questions you might have about Tanzu Community Edition, provide feedback or any feature requests, anything like that. We would love to meet you and have you come join us live. If you aren't able to make it to any of the meetings, there are other ways to reach us. You can find us in the Tanzu Community Edition channel in the Kubernetes Slack workspace. You can find us in GitHub discussions. You can add your request or question or suggestion to our issue list. You can also email us, and you can find us on Twitter at VMware TCE. If you do have any item you wish to discuss with the team and anyone that's on this call right now, if something's come up, please add that to the agenda down at the discussion topic section, and we will get to it towards the end of the meeting. If at any point you are interacting with any members of the community, the maintainers, we ask that you please read and abide by our code of conduct. And I did not say the date earlier, but today's date is April 20th, 2022. If you are using Tanzu Community Edition, we would love to get some more details about how you are using it. So we created this pinned issue, and it just asks for you to provide a few different details regarding your usage, mainly about your company, what's your scenarios for using Tanzu Community Edition. And there's an option for you to add your logo, and we'll add that to the adopters file, but it's not required to participate in this. It's just a way for us to get a better understanding of different use cases out there for using Tanzu Community Edition, as well as like helping other members of the community understand how others are using it. And in turn, it helps them know better ways of using it as well. So we highly encourage you to fill this out. If you have any questions about it, please let us know. And everyone who's on the call today, make sure you put your name and any organization that you're representing in the attendees list here. Moving on to some announcements. We wanted to acknowledge some feedback that we have been receiving regarding our communications and messaging around Tanzu Community Edition, whether that's on our website or in our social channels. And we really, really appreciate all the feedback that we have been getting, and we're looking forward to working towards bettering our communications and messaging. And if you have any feedback, our DMs are open, mine in particular. I'm very receptive to hearing what you have, because we want to know, we want to make sure that we are building this project in the best way possible for our community and making a very comfortable space there. So you can find me on Twitter at microwavables. If you want a backstory about that handle, I'm happy to provide it. And you can find me in Kubernetes Slack at Nancy, and make sure you put the I in there. So yeah, very open. Would love to know your feedback on that, and we hope to start making improvements soon regarding this. Any questions while I have other folks on here? If they have any feedback they want to share? Thank you. Okay, on to some announcements. So we did have the release candidate 2 for 0.12. It's now available. We appreciate any and all early testing on this release, and we are planning on releasing 0.12 from May 10th. So please give that a try. Please provide any feedback. We would really love to know how, if there's any areas of improvement for this before May 10th. So thank you for that. Moving on to status updates regarding this release. John, you want to take it away?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, as Nancy said, RC2 is out. Please download it, try it, install it. Yeah, targeting May 10th for the actual GA of 0.12.0. So, very exciting. A lot of great features for Unmanaged Cluster. This is going to be on Tanzu Framework version 0.11.4. And we've maintained that compatibility with TMC. So, yeah, this is going to be a really, really exciting release. I'm not going to call out too much within the actual status stuff here. I think as we noted last week, the only at-risk thing is using Antrea as the default CNI. That's in work with the Antrea team. It's just going to be a bit behind on the 0.12 target, so we're hoping to get that in to 0.13. But for now, Calico will remain the default CNI for unmanaged clusters. Yeah, not much else going on within there. I would love to, though, get the screen and fire off our demo here. So this is kind of continuing on our theme from last week's demo. If anybody was in, let me pop up. Where is my mouse? Whatever. This is kind of continuing our theme from last week's demo with Unmanaged Cluster. We're going to talk about 3 features. This is the big cup of coffee edition. Bear with me as I very tired. So we're going to talk about additional repos. We're going to talk about cluster statuses and the start, stop, lifecycle hooks for clusters. So these are new features coming in 0.12 for unmanaged clusters. And first, we're going to talk about additional repos. And what this is the flag that you can add for bootstrapping your unmanaged cluster to automatically install a package repository during that cluster bootstrapping. Right now, what happens is the user manage package repository automatically gets installed, and then that gives you a bunch of packages. But we wanted to provide a way for users to provide their own package repository URL, so that, say you were working on something and you wanted that to be automatically available, or even package devs needing that to kind of get that extra step of having that package repository there. What's also really cool about this is you can specify it multiple times. So you could install multiple package repositories on bootstrapping of your unmanaged cluster. So without further ado, let's do a quick little demo. Let me get over to my terminal. So let's look at what unmanaged cluster version we have. This is 0.12.0 RC2. You can go try this right now. But what we want to do is let's kind of create, I guess, a scenario for ourselves where, say, I wanted to try the alpha release of some package repository. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the projects.registry.vmware.com/tc/main, and surprise, surprise, we actually do have some of these alpha releases of our package repository. So down here, you can see there's a 0.12.0 alpha, numbers, automatic things. So what that is I believe Nick made this last week. Nick is on PTO. Shout out to Nick. But this is a most up-to-date version of our package repository. So let's say I really wanted to try this out. I could actually automatically install this on my cluster using this here. So that's the tag inside of the user package repository. Lots of words, lots of things. So let's actually use that in our cluster bootstrapping. Let's do Tanzu unmanaged cluster ls just to make sure I don't have anything going on. No clusters. So let's bootstrap one. And we are going to create, we're just going to call this test cluster. And I'm going to give it the additional repo flag and then slap in that repo registry URL /tc/main, and then paste that in there. And then we are off to the races. So I'm actually going to stop this just so that, it takes a hot second. But I do want to show that right here, we can see that it selected that additional package repository. So we would get all of those packages automatically on here. Let's see that for real. But what I want to do, kind of as continuity from last week, is I want to specify a install package flag. Now, if you remember from last week, we were still calling this profiles. Thank you everybody for the awesome feedback. This is now install package. So what I can do with install package is give it the prefix to a package name. Let's do fluent bit, and then it will reach in and automatically install that package, given that prefix, this could be, a full name, .projects.registry, blah, blah, blah. And we can, again, give it a tag. This could be latest. We could give it a values.yaml file, but this will work. We can just do fluentbit and that will automatically install fluentbit. But first I need to get rid of that last cluster, delete test cluster. That's going to get rid of that. Thank you very much, Unmanaged Cluster. Let's try again. Okay, so now it is off bootstrapping, and we can see again here, it's selected that alpha repository here. It's automatically going to install that. And then right now what it's doing is bootstrapping our kind cluster, and we can see that here. This will take just a minute. And once it's done doing that, it's going to install cap controller, which obviously manages the packages, manages the package repositories, all that. There it is doing cap controller. And then after that, we'll be able to see it actually getting and reaching into those package repositories, installing those, and then the actual package itself, fluentbit. So a lot of really nice things kind of behind the scenes happening. Feel free to throw questions in chat. I have that open as well. Or just interrupt me. That is fine as well. So this will take just a second. We should make this even faster so demos have 0 downtime. So their cap controller is up, installing package repository. This one is the core package repository with things like the CNI. And then next we will see the actual user managed package repository coming up. And there it is. So we can see projects.registry, and this is the V012 alpha one that Nick made last week. That is reconciling. And then here we can see installing package fluentbit. It's just selecting this package via the prefix and using the latest version with no configuration file. So if we go into K9s, we can look at our package repositories here. This is what I had up earlier, and we can see that it selected this one. If we go into actual packages, we can see a bunch of these. So these are all the alpha packages out there. So I hope that demonstrates kind of how additional repo actually can, you can select that and install that automatically. Let's quit out of here. As with all things in Unmanaged Cluster, we can actually do this via a configuration file. So I forget what this file is called, vim mycluster.yaml. This is a configuration file that I had bootstrapped earlier, but here in this field, the additional package repos, we can see that I had added that alpha repository. And again, you can specify this multiple times. So let's, we could do, this 3 times. This would be 3 times, obviously we can't install this multiple times, but this could be something like my test registry mydomain.com. And then that would automatically reach into that registry URL and install that alongside this one, this alpha v012 one as well. So a lot of power with this for sure. Let's jump back over to the demo. Or not the demo, the slides. Next up inside of here is status, start, and stop. So this was some feedback we got from the community. Thank you so much for this awesome feedback. This led us to a really fun feature here where we can actually reveal the status of a cluster running in both the kind provider and the minikube provider. The statuses you will see are running, stopped, and unknown. And then that also gave us the capabilities to provide start and stop hooks. So say you're running a cluster in kind via Unmanaged Cluster. You can actually provide Tanzu Unmanaged Cluster stop, and it will stop that within the Docker provider kind of underneath the hood. So better to show than tell. Let's take a quick look at that. Scott had a question. How is the name decided for the package repo? That's a good question. That's a really good question. Let me get out of here. Oops, not questions. Let's see if I can quick exit out. If we look up here, we can see that this was the name it had kind of created. It's essentially making a valid sort of domain name for the Kubernetes object. So it can't have like slashes. It can't have things that would appear in your registry URL. So essentially it takes that, replaces the invalid characters, and I think it just puts It just puts these dashes in. So it should be almost the same as the registry URL itself, but with some of those illegal characters replaced, if that makes sense. But yeah, very, very close to the actual registry URL. So for our stop and start, let's do Tanzu Unmanaged Cluster, ls. And within the ls command, the list command, I guess, you can actually see this new status field here. And we can see that this cluster that I had with the kind provider is running. Now, if I look at Tanzu Unmanaged Cluster, let's do help, we can see that we have these two new experimental commands, start an unmanaged cluster and stop an unmanaged cluster. So since this cluster is already running, why don't we do Tanzu Unmanaged Cluster stop? And this was called test cluster. And it will reach into the kind provider, for more details underneath that into Docker and actually stop that. So if I do Docker PS, I can see I have nothing running. That cluster is completely stopped. So if I go the opposite direction, let's do unmanaged cluster, start test cluster. It's attempting to start the cluster. And I can go back to Docker PS and I see that that is back up and running. Same works for Minikube. Minikube provides those APIs to us and it can start and stop in that manner as well. So yeah, this was a bunch of feedback we got from the community. Really, really love this. Yeah, really short and sweet kind of on that feature side. But any questions? That was it. That was the demo. Steve loves it. Thanks, Steve.
Scott has a question. I'm not sure if you got to that. How is the name decided for the package repo?
Yeah. So that was kind of that bit on the illegal characters inside of the URL getting replaced with dashes. So it should look almost the same. And that's, let's see if we scroll back into the logs, we can see right here where it's reaching into this, and it's almost the same as that actual registry URL, just with some of those legal characters like the slashes replaced. So yeah, you should see almost the same thing. Cool. Any other questions? Well, feel free to, give it a try, use it. And we're always in the Kubernetes Slack. That's where we're going to be, hanging out and giving or seeing your feedback. So thank you guys very much.
Great. Thanks, John. Let's see. It looks like there wasn't anything added for discussion topics.
David is raising his hand.
I'm sorry?
David was raising his hand, I think, or maybe was that just waving?
Did someone have their hand raised? Maybe someone clapped?
I think it was me clapping. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I misread it.
That's okay. Thanks for pointing that out. Okay. Anybody have anything they wish to bring up before part ways?
I'm gonna come up with an unscheduled thing. So there's I don't know how to say this in the correct way, but well, there's some chatter about changes that are coming to TC, both in how we handle this as a community project as opposed to a product. So basically work being done in the open, and also about changes to the deliverables that we have. So as we learn and the project grows and adapts, things become different. So basically what I wanted to say is there is a lot of work going on, which is the vaguest thing you can say, but next week I'd like to present everyone with the publicly the approved for public consumption version of what these changes are, that there's some chatter about going on already, but everyone's kind of confused. So I just wanted to say, I know, I'm sorry, but next week.
Yeah, and if I can add one thing too, is like, this is a really important project, and one of our big things is just to get feedback and clarity about what people find useful and valuable and where the best user experiences lie. And that was really the reason of this project is to get people involved and get this great feedback. And and amazing, like a pre 1.0 product, I'm astounded at how high the engagement has been and how positive it's been. So like for us, this is we're in a really good position where we can make some decision based on feedback, where instead of like just guessing, like a lot of open source projects have to do. So I think what V's really alluding to is that we're synthesizing the feedback. We know we've been doing this now for 6 months, and I think that that kind of opens the door for us to talk about areas where we can increase in our effort and expand the things we do, and maybe some areas that are getting less traction or don't seem to pan out in terms of those use cases, like we can pull back or do different things there. So it's really just like trying to focus on the things that the community is telling us unambiguously are the most important things, and then to continue building this great community around it. So I just wanted to double down on that because I think this is great. I love the fact that we're getting the feedback and it's super helpful.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, V, and thank you for sharing that, Jace. It looks like, just off topic, it looked like Scott had asked a question. When we add an additional repo, it replaces the user managed repo, if I understand correctly. And John, you say, yes, it will not install the default user managed repo if you specify one. It isn't all in configuration right now.
Yeah, that's a great point, Scott. That is something I missed. So when you provide additional repo, it will not by default give you the default one that comes with our Tanzu Kubernetes release, our TKR. So if you wanted to still use that one, you could provide it in your configuration file, and then as your additional one, say you were working on some extra packages, provide that as an additional flag. Yeah, if that's a sharp UX, would definitely love to see that in an issue or like your kind of user flow if that wasn't working for you.
Yeah, I think that at least having that mentioned clearly in the docs, because someone who is working with additional package repos, that doesn't necessarily, I have no problem with that UX. It just seems not intuitive necessarily, and someone may think, hey, where's my Prometheus package that should be there?
Yeah. Additional is not really a useful name for it then, because it's not additional to the base one. It's alternative to their alternative to the base one.
Yeah, we do call that out in the docs. Naming, as it always seems to be very hard, so would love to reconsider that if that's something we want to get a touch point on for sure.
Okay, anything else regarding that? Okay, and going back to what V and Jay said, I want to reiterate to please share your feedback. Don't be shy. We really want to have the community involved here. It's a very important project, and we want to make sure everyone is heard and we can do and improve upon this project in the best way for the community at large. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.